Yo, what's going on, YouTube, and welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte, and today we are going to be recapping everything that happened to the Vancouver Canucks and their series against the Edmonton Oilers. Disappointing finish. I predicted Edmonton to win that series. Of course, this has to go off as soon as I start recording. It's one of those things where I think that the Canucks, I don't want to say lack of experience because there are veterans on this team, but I think ultimately what bit them in the butt, unfortunately, was Elias Pettersson just didn't really seem like he was all the way there, and I think that came back to bite them. He had that comment, I think it was after Game 5. They were up 3-2 in this series, and the reporters were kind of asking him, like, what happened? Why aren't you playing well and this and that? And Taka kind of said, listen, we need our top guys to produce, kind of calling out Elias Pettersson, and just nothing really transpired. And I think, unfortunately, like, Pettersson just wasn't all the way there. And JT Miller played well. You saw some guys that you weren't expecting to really kind of pop off, right? Like Elias Lindholm played fairly well. Really it hurt Brock Besser not being in Game 7. That definitely was a tough blow. And you have to consider what the Canucks were up against going into this series, right? Like, the Oilers were the team that is supposedly the team to beat. And despite having home ice advantage, despite winning their division, it just seemed like the Canucks weren't the same team. And I hate to say they stumbled their way into the playoffs, but they had such a good start to the season, and it seemed like they kind of regressed as the year went along. And I think that ended up ultimately just, again, it's the maybe lack of experience for some of the younger players. It didn't help that Demko was hurt, right? And I said going into the playoffs, the Canucks can go on a serious run this year if Demko stays healthy and is ready to go. Well, I was clearly wrong in that, because Casey DeSmith and Artur Silovs both came in and played incredible without Demko. And he played, the first 1 or 2 games? And that was it. So the fact that they had that, Elias Pettersson wasn't on his game. This team faced adversity to the highest degree. Vancouver's a tough market to play in. Everything gets scrutinized, the little pieces and little details. This is a team that had a lot to go up against, and they did very well despite it. Now, I know it's that participation trophy. Everybody feels like a winner. I know that's not good enough. The Canucks aren't where the Canucks didn't get to their ultimate goal, but this was a really damn good hockey team this year, and I think Rick Tocchet taught us a lot about what the Canucks are capable of this year, because he got a lot out of this team I didn't really think was possible. And when you look at some of their, the summer, going into the summer now, there's going to be a couple of changes to this team. So up front, you have 4 UFA contracts. You have Teddy Bluger, Dakota Joshua, Sam Lafferty, and Elias Lindholm. Now, if you were to sit here and tell me on July 1st that all 4 of those guys left Vancouver, I wouldn't be surprised. In all honesty, I could see them prioritizing keeping a guy like Dakota Joshua. He played really well in the playoffs this year, and even though he's not a big-name player, right, the Dearborn, Michigan native, played well for the Vancouver Canucks, and he just seemed to fit the mold of this type of team. So it just seemed to make sense for him here. He had 8 points in 13 games. Like, he played incredible. 32 points in 63 games. Like, that's a guy I think they really want to keep around. Elias Lindholm is going to be much more difficult because I don't know if he even wants to come back to Vancouver. And we don't know all the details yet. They haven't done the press conferences and things yet. But I'm really interested to see where he ends up going. I mean, he had 12 points in the final 26 games of the year. He had 10 points in 13 games in the playoffs, 5 goals, 5 assists. So it's going to be a weird situation with Elias Lindholm. I'm really interested to see what he's thinking right now. Does he want to stay in Vancouver? Does he look at it as a failure? Or does he look at it as, listen, I finally got my feet under me during the playoffs and we played really well. Ultimately, I think it's going to come down to the security. Can he get a 6 to 8 year deal for pretty good money in Vancouver? If he can, I think he'll come back. If the money's not there, I don't know if he'll come back, right? So we'll see. Filip Hronek on the back end, it seems to be the most there seems to be the most buzz around that, because he wants, what did he say he wanted? He wanted, like, I think he said he wanted $7 or $8 million a year. He didn't play like it. Filip Hronek, I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to trade him somewhere. I don't know. I understand where Hronik's camp is coming from. They're trying to get the most value for their player that they can, but I just don't. I think teams are like, yeah, no, we're not paying you that much, and it just doesn't seem feasible at this point. But he is an RFA with arbitration rights, which could kind of impact things. A couple of their other defensemen, Ian Cole, Mark Friedman, Tyler Myers, and Nikita Zadorov, all of those guys are UFAs. So we're going to see a complete overhaul of the blue line in Vancouver. The only guys technically on contract next season are Hughes, Soucy, and Noah Juleson. So other than that, going to be a completely potentially new blue line for the Canucks, and that kind of sucks because they did have a good group of guys there, and I think they'll try to keep as many of them as they can. But I think it's a good thing for them that the Tyler Myers contract isn't going to be there. I think that's going to help. But yeah, we'll see how that kind of goes. At the goaltending situation, you got Demko and Nikita Talapio, whatever, however you pronounce that. I apologize. And then Arthur Seelovs and Casey DeSmith are up for new contracts. So DeSmith is a UFA and Seelovs is an RFA. I think they're going to keep Seelovs. I could see them letting DeSmith walk. Again, kind of sucks, but I think they're in a situation where he might ask for some money because he actually did play fairly well in the playoffs. I think that's something that we could see for the Canucks. I mean, like I said, ideally you keep everybody, but that's not really feasible. So, it's a tough thing with the Canucks. I'm kind of at a loss. I'm at a loss for words because this team seems like they have it together. It seems like they have the right combination of guys. I just think it was at the wrong time, and I think that with the whole situation with Demko, with the situation around like seeing how Seelovs kind of came up, it's kind of weird seeing where the Canucks are going to be next year because I think they're capable of going back to the playoffs, and I've really been I've been a fan of the Canucks for a while. I've been the guy for the last couple of years when they didn't make the playoffs, even going back to 2020. How this is the turnaround for the Canucks, right? They went to the conference final in 2020, and they were going to continue that success moving forward. I apologize for that. I just expected that train to keep rolling forward, and it didn't. They missed the playoffs for a couple of years, and they kind of made me feel stupid. And I think going into this summer, they have to make the right moves here. If they need to figure out what they're going to do with guys like Hronik and Lindholm. I think those are the priorities, and after that, they'll figure out everything else. But with that said, I think the Canucks are totally capable. This is what this team is capable of. I think they can go to the playoffs. I think they can win their division. And I think if things fall the right way, they could be a Stanley Cup champion. But I just think they need a little bit more. They need a little bit more from their top guys. It's not necessarily that you need to change things. It's you need to see more production from Pettersson, right? We saw it all of a sudden in the middle of the playoffs, just Brock Besser just took off. Like, you needed to see that a game or two or three from Elias Pettersson, and it just didn't happen. And I think that was the difference for the Canucks. And I hate to say that. I hate to put all the pressure on Petey, but that was a huge reason why the Canucks didn't have that little extra gas to win either Game 6 or 7 against the Oilers, is they just didn't have that. So let me know what you guys think about the Vancouver Canucks. What are your guys' predictions for next season? What would you like to see them do this offseason? There's going to be a lot of interesting topics going on around Vancouver, but I'd love to know what you guys think. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you again next time.